Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. It's so nice to be here. It's been a while since I recorded a video. I feel like sometimes it's feast or famine with me. Like today I've just got so much to say, and I think I'm going to record a few different videos today to put up over the next couple of weeks. But I want to start with one that's just real short and sweet. People have asked me in the Facebook group lately whether I have received the bivalent COVID booster. Let me give the Facebook group a plug real quick first. For those of you who don't already know, Sandy's DIY Health Advocacy channel does have a Facebook page, and that page also has a Facebook group that you can ask to join, and it's a little more of an interactive discussion, questions, answers. People post articles and people put their thoughts. Sometimes somebody wants to solve a problem and people have different ideas, so it's just really a nice group. And yeah, if you haven't checked it out, please do so. I've also just recently, for the first time, I put a topic up in the Facebook group that I did not put on my channel. Now I'm not sure if I'll dip my toe in the water of putting it on my channel, just because it's really the second time in the couple years that I've been doing this channel where I was a little concerned about being taken down or censorship, or whatever you want to call it. I didn't want to aggravate the bots. I think it's a pretty benign discussion, but I was concerned about it. So I thought that occasionally maybe I will put something like that in the Facebook group as a tool. So that might be a good reason to head over there as well. Although I probably will mention that issue in another video. Anyway, as far as the COVID booster, I have not received my bivalent booster. Some people have asked me, why not, once I've answered that. And, I think that this is kind of a nuanced calculus, whether to get this and when to get it. And I will insert my usual disclaimer, which is that I'm not giving any individual medical advice on this channel. So please make sure that you speak with your own practitioner about it. Nothing that I say should be deemed a substitute for the advice of your own practitioner. That said, I do think this is nuanced. I think early on in the pandemic, when vaccines were very new tools and vaccines prevented infection in the first place, not just severe disease and death, I think it was a lot less nuanced. I ran out and got the first shot that I could, and when it was time for a boost, it was clear from the Israeli study that the vaccines did need some boosting. I ran out and got the boost as soon as I could as well. So this time when the bivalents came out, the CDC said that anybody who's had their last boost at least 2 months, I think it had to be only 2 months, a very short period of time, then you were eligible to get the bivalent booster. So I could have gone out and gotten it. I've been about 5 months now. I did my last boost of Moderna right when I was starting therapy after my hand surgery. So I was going to be going to occupational therapy with lots of people, no masks and things like that. Until then, I was sort of like sitting around the house. My hand was in a cast and I wasn't really out bumping into people so much. So I waited with that boost, and that was my second boost. So I've had a total of 4 shots. Now, here's my thinking about it. And again, this is not going to be right for everybody because it depends on your circumstances. First of all, you have to take into account what the infection rate is like in your area. And I did a video not too long ago about how infection rates don't really tell the whole story because they rely on voluntary and reported testing. So it doesn't include people who are testing at home and not reporting it. It doesn't include people who never get tested, people who are asymptomatic. You can definitely see things going up and down, but as some locations kind of wind down their testing and lots of these things are not so available as much as they were, I think that's going to be a difficult tool. I think it's much better if you can look at the wastewater analysis in your area, because that's always right. If they're doing it like once or twice a week and you can watch the graph over time, that gives you a very good indicator of whether the transmission in your area is high or low. In my area, as I would expect it to be, it's low. We have our peaks in the summer. Because we have very, very hot summers where people are driven into air-conditioned places. Now in the Northeast is getting ready to be winter, so people are going to be driven inside with the heat and out, not wanting to be outside in the cold. So I think that's when their spike is. And it just seems to me that most of these recommendations come out, they're sort of like Northeast biased or the Midwest biased. Maybe it's the bulk of this country is kind of north enough to have winters. But there's a lot of us down here, in the Sun Belt who don't have that. So I do wish that they would kind of make those recommendations nuanced as well and talk about not the whole country, because we're not all the same climate, and therefore we really have different waves. Our waves usually precede those up north. So right now, not a whole lot of community transmission in my area. So I'm not in a big rush. I don't feel like I'm bumping into a whole lot of viral load anywhere I would go. Secondly, I think the really important thing to keep track of here is what is the benefit of the new bivalent vaccine, and I don't think it's been completely elucidated yet. It might turn out to be that it's just the best thing and that it really does prevent uh, contraction of the virus and prevents spread of the virus. Like this time, the previous vaccines really weren't doing that anymore with Omicron. But the one thing that we do know is that it prevents the severity and death. And at this point, honestly, in my opinion, that's kind of a low bar. We've ticked that box already. The older vaccines did that as well. That never stopped working. And the only good information that I've seen indicates that if you've had 3 shots, so 1 boost, that durability against severe infection and death is very long lasting. So I don't know exactly how long, but I haven't had 3, I've had 4 shots. So I believe that we are going to find, every time I read something about it, it's just some reiteration of the same point, which is that the protection against severe disease and death is long lasting. So I don't feel that I need to go out and get the bivalent booster for that reason. And I kind of don't think I'm really in that risk group anyway. Sure, anything can happen and there are exceptions, but I think I've said before, I think we need to start pivoting and looking at long COVID and all the other kinds of problems that COVID causes, that besides severe disease and death, because we've tackled that. That's another discussion I'm going to talk about on another video. But I wouldn't be taking another boost for that reason. So the only reason for me to take a boost now would be to prevent the contracting of the Omicron virus. So then I'm back to what's the viral load like in my area and transmission, and more importantly, how well does this vaccine prevent contracting the virus in the first place? Sort of like the original vaccines did with the original strains. That was fantastic. I don't know. The jury's out on that. Every time I see some headline like clickbait, it's always great news about the Omicron variant. And as soon as I get in there, I realize it's just more of, okay, titers in the blood were increased. And while that's good news, and sometimes that's prognostic, there's a good immune response, how it translates into prevention of infection is very much speculative at this point. There was somebody on either the CDC or the FDA advisory panel, there was one dissenter in terms of allowing or recommending this particular booster right now. By the way, I think they should let people have it. I don't think controlling things like this really helps. But because I don't think it's harmful. But his dissent, he wrote about it in the Wall Street Journal, and I think that he made very good sense when he discussed the fact that the titer differences in terms of antibody count differences before and after the Omicron booster don't necessarily look like they're significant enough to translate into real world immunity difference. So I'm not sure yet what I have to gain getting the booster right now. At some point I will need a boost. I'll decide I need a boost. Maybe it'll be 6 months after my previous shot. That would be in a month from now. Maybe it'll be a little longer because I think the protection against severe disease and death is pretty long lasting. But at whatever point I decide that I'm going to go ahead and get a boost, of course it's going to be bivalent because that's what's out there right now. But I don't want to say I'm fatigued from this. I just didn't feel the need to go run out and grab it, given that I'm not in a high-risk area. I might also be doing some traveling in a few more months, so that might also be something to keep in mind. I try to time it, just like I've said on this channel when we were talking about timing previous boosters, because you certainly get a big uptick in your immunity, and it does seem to wane pretty quickly. I really wish we could get some nasal vaccines and some other therapeutics out there, because I just think that we've ticked this box of protecting ourselves or being able to protect ourselves against severe disease and death, and I just don't think that's enough anymore in the COVID fight. And I think there's this rhetoric out there that people just want to believe that it's over because of this, and it's definitely not. There are definitely bigger problems to worry about now. I think focusing on the acute illness and the severity of the acute infection is the tip of the iceberg, and under the waterline is a whole looming public health crisis, which I'm going to talk about on another video. I'm not sure how the vaccine really affects that aspect of it. I think that's going to be other kinds of vaccines and other kinds of therapeutics that we don't yet have. So yeah, I'll do another video soon and talk about my current mitigation strategy, because it's several pronged. And I think the cornerstone of it is still masking. I don't see getting around that for quite some time. But I do have some tips and ideas for those of you who, like me, have adult kids, for example, that are in situations where they just can't always mask. They're not going to. And Yeah, so I'll get that video up soon. I'll put something together for you. In the meantime, let me know what your thoughts are. I know that in the Facebook group, a lot of people went into great detail about whether they took the Omicron booster bivalent or not, why they did it, what their side effects were. I think that would be really interesting. Those of you who are going to write about that in the comment section, please put down whether you took Pfizer or whether you took Moderna, because I think that will be helpful to people as well. Still a slight dose difference, not as much as the difference in the original vaccines, but Pfizer still has a slightly lower dose of the messenger RNA in it than does Moderna. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts and your experiences were. And until next time, be well. Bye-bye.